So I put out a tweet, and I'm gonna read through all of them. I haven't. I skimmed through a couple of them, and I think I saw you, Peter. You had said something like that, so I'm gonna repeat it you again. But I'm gonna be going through all those. I have notes already. Maybe I'll go through those first, because these are kind of my initial thoughts, and I'm just kind of sharing my thinking process whenever I do these sorts. Because I'm gonna do that sort of video. It's not gonna be live. I'm not gonna do it here. I want to do a script and all that. You directly copied it. There you go. But I'm just gonna this is gonna be a work day or a work stream for me. But I'm brainstorming ideas. I'm trying to get input from folks, and I want to share perspectives. And the whole point of me wanting to embrace this kind of evolution of reputation and really look towards account-wide stuff. That's going to be kind of the key word here. Even if people might not be 100% behind that, I've been like up to this point super resistant of it, and I kind of came to that realization that what, that's not fair. I think that I should embrace that side of the debate, I guess, for the purpose of trying to figure out new ideas, open my eyes a little bit more, and like I said, try to see if we can think of something better, because that might be fun. And maybe we won't find anything. Maybe we'll just kind of go full circle and be like, okay, well, shit. Sorry, guys, this is where we're at. Is there a debate? I mean, we all agree that we all want account-wide rep, right? No, I don't. Personally, I don't. Personally, for me, there's a line where, I guess I'll describe like my stance on it up to now. I think that there are certain things about reputation that are flawed, but fundamentally, I feel like reputation is a per character sort of thing. It's the story of your character and how your character ventured in and helped out the Dark Iron Dwarves or whatever they were called back in vanilla. Yeah, I forgot the name of that. The Thorian Brotherhood. There we go. How it was that character that went in and helped the Thorian Brotherhood and did all this stupid shit for them so they can get these recipes and all that stuff. It's a story of how of that particular character was able to like learn these recipes and get these things and be able to do all these things for these other factions. So Peter says a count-bound rep would be a bad thing. The cons far outweigh the pros, and that's kind of where I'm at. But I want to challenge that for fun, right? That's what we're here for. I know that when it comes to gaming, we tend to get emotionally charged because gaming is an emotionally charged thing. It's there for stimulus, and so the design of it, it's a bit meta, but we're here to dive into that too. So however, whatever we get to or whatever we debate on this, I just want to draw that line and make it clear that we're being armchair devs here. We're just being fans talking about stuff that we like and don't like, and we're going to agree and disagree about shit. But at the end of the day, please keep having coffee with me or whatever it is that you might be having with me. Please don't unsubscribe. I just want to have a conversation about it, because that sounds fun. I'll read a little bit more chat, and then I'll get to like my notes, and then we'll look at the tweets, and then we'll circle back and we'll talk about this some more. It matters what rep gates. My feeling is that rep and power systems shouldn't be the same thing, like cosmetic gear, mounts, and pets or gear that is similar item level to raid. Excuse me. And is fine to lock behind raid, but it sucks to put stuff like conduits and gems on a rep grind. I feel like WoW needs a Cataclysm style expansion. There are so many reps and grinds that are brain dead easy, so it makes the gating of dailies much more apparent. We're all big boys and girls, we can be civil. Cool. I hope I'll test the theory. Let's take a look at my notes first. That one of the reasons So some of the big reasons why I think of anything is because I think of a name of something, or I think of like this like one thing, and then I build around it. And the thing I built around was this term, Legend of Azeroth. I'm just gonna read through my notes. This is gonna sound it's gonna be all over the place. I think I contradict myself a couple times here. Legend of Azeroth, basically a name for the account-wide collection systems. Does it really need one? I ask myself. Right now, account-wide systems include transmog, pets, mounts, titles, achievements. Honor is in there too. The idea is to, honor as a rank, but not honor as a currency. Big difference there. The idea is to add rep to this thing, to the account-wide collection system. Reputation is going to be decoupled from the character, and this whole concept of Legend of Azeroth is being sold as an account feature. It is a player feature, or whatever. The point is to celebrate the player. The player, the champion of Azeroth is the thing that we play. The Legend of Azeroth is you, controller, user. It's a celebration of you. Old Reputation, I wrote, probably can't be grandfathered in, can it? There's going to be way too much debate. People want their previous time to be acknowledged somehow. Account-wide rep sounds simple, but it's not. Lots of questions to ask with answers some people won't like, such as, what if you have alts? It'd be unfair if players who have multiple alts can all contribute to Reputation 1-to-1. That sends the message that the game wants you to play multiple characters to get to your goals faster, even if you don't actually care about having multiple characters. You just want that thing at the end, which devalues the meaning behind created characters. Lots of rep to game. I don't know why I wrote that. Longer term rep rewards, longer than normal maybe. Best way to pace though is to have weekly caps and open up ways to earn rep. I think I wanted to say like accessibility here, something like that. Immovable object, unstoppable force. That is players versus developers. I definitely want to have this line in here, or something similar to this. Players want to get away with everything they can. Developers want the game to be paced a certain way. There has to be a thoughtful compromise, and the ball is in the developer's court to decide. All we can do as fans and players is react. So let's give in. Reputation is going to be tracked account-wide. When reputation requirements are met, all characters can purchase stuff from a vendor, provided other requirements are met. So here I try to acknowledge what is still available for the WoW team. So that could include level, story progression, as in like complete chapter X of this thing, separate currencies. Just try to think of whatever tools that are still available to the developer. And then I had this little platitude: developers, please respect our time. But I followed that up with players, please respect the intent of the developer. I added that. Nice platitude. Not going to happen. Okay, that's a nice little dose of reality I thrown in. Tabards are archaic design. I truly believe this. Tabards are archaic design. It can and has been done better, such as Renown, but more importantly, the Korthia Weekly and the Mechagon World Quest. The key is accessibility. Not everyone rises up to meet the challenge of grouping, which is the whole point of like those rep tabards, but everyone can begrudgingly do outdoor content. So work on the begrudging part. Embrace that people can and will do both. Is that necessary and NECES necessarily an advantage? Depends on the reward. Reputation can be earned through numerous means: mob kills, daily quests, world quests, elites, rares, related dungeons, and raids. Switch to an alt and do the same thing? Sure. However, rep is put under, this was an idea, rep is put under a weekly cap just like Valor or Conquest, or Tower Knowledge, or Renown. Note that artifact power was paced sort of similarly, but with softer resistance with diminishing returns. Which is better, a hard cap, or after hitting the soft cap, rep gains are reduced tremendously? Actually, here's me evolving as I type. Actually, why even have a weekly cap if the rewards are mostly cosmetic? What about characters who have hit Exalted multiple times? This goes back to the grandfathering conversation. What about characters who have hit Exalted multiple times? Maybe they're screwed. They didn't get anything before. Excuse me. They didn't get anything before. Didn't have any expectation. Should they get anything grandfathered in? There's a bunch of us that have, multiple that got Exalted with X rep multiple times. Is that should that be acknowledged if or when account-wide stuff, rep goes account-wide? Or, I don't know if I wrote this down yet, or when it does happen, should that only apply to future reputation and not, and then the legacy rep is just like whatever. It just is what that is, and they're just going to leave that alone. Which would be awkward because there are going to be people that, who newer players that come in that will be messing around with these old reputations as they're first leveling up, a little bit at least, and they're going to ask, oh, well, that's kind of confusing. Shouldn't it be unified? So those are all things to think about. It seems important. Rep rewards are something to either. This seems important. I think I wanted to say, this is a note for me, not something I want to say. Rep rewards are something to either, should be, rep rewards are something to either not impact player power, or just be a stepping stone, or something obviously for players outside of the big three. Look at past and current rep that does have gear up to revered. I'm not quite, okay, I think I know what I'm saying there. Okay, I think this is the bigger takeaway when it comes to rep rewards. The difference is between a stepping stone and a requirement to check off. So it'd be the difference between, gear that you would get, that you could potentially get better gear from raids, dungeons, PvP, whatever, but still might be relevant for people who just run world content. But then when it comes to this idea of requirement to check off, the thought that I had was essence ranks, Azerite essence ranks, or the legendary memory. That's something that feels very important that we've got to do, as opposed to, it would be nice to have. Except for people who just run world content, because for people that run world content, reputation is the progression. That is it, and that's very important. So we're trying to think of all these different player styles and stuff. Even with multiple paths, even with multiple paths to a goal, and I think the thought I had in mind here was conduit upgrades and the socket thing, conduit and socket upgrades. Even with multiple paths, players respond poorly when the least resistance is behind a daily grind, like Korthia, especially when multiple paths are gated somehow, or otherwise made not as optimal, like the Adamant Vault, where if you do an Adamant Vault, you get a chance to get one of those conduit upgrades, as opposed to doing like the straight farm and grind in Korthia. So those are all the thoughts that I have at the moment. Now let me get to the Twitter thread so I can get through other people's thoughts, because they are very important too. And then we'll come back to chat, and I'll read through your guys' thoughts too. And then we'll start taking some more notes, start to refine stuff, and try to settle on an idea that seems like a decent compromise. Because the fact of the matter is that not everyone's going to get what they want. That's the whole point. We do not make the game. We just respond to it, and we tell the developers what they like, but ultimately it's still their game, and they can do whatever they want. The power that we have over it is that we quit or not participate. What's up, Moody? All right, so last night I put out this tweet where I asked, what's your ideal rep farming dream in World of Warcraft? I have a lot of ideas and I just share them, but I want to hear more from others. There's no needless bashing. Not what you think is best for the game, just you. What would satisfy you best? So I'm just gonna like go through it. Brino writes, my dream rep farming is something I can do passively, at least past friendly or honored or something, with a tabard, for example. Before that, world quests, dailies, rares, chest, quest, what have you, but make the rep seasonally capped a la Valor, so it's not endless, but it has catch up. What I do not like, and would turn my dream into a nightmare, is having random items drop to turn in, or having to log in daily due to not having reasonable catch up or having no cap at all. Because then I would just grind it all out in one sitting, having no self control. It's funny how some of our critiques in gaming is that, hey Blizz, you suck because I have no self control and you're not doing anything about it. But then when they do something about it, hey Blizz, I don't want to, I don't want to be forced to log in every day for blah, 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 blah. And that's why we have the Korthia Weekly. To me, the Korthia Weekly is fucking brilliant. Brilliant shit. Millimens writes, a mix of all the types for rep grinding. Dailies, mobs, which give rep on kill, a big chunk of reputation once a week. That would please everyone, I think. All my problems with Blizzard designs is the lack of options on how to get your rep, hence the Korthia Daily. See how I'm going to retreat to that a lot? Dailies, rares, and weeklies, and world quests, writes Stephen Golden, but with a weekly cap on the rep that the average player could easily reach. So kind of like Renown. Have that total grind only go about a month or so, and then have the cap carry over every week. Also, all rewards from the rep are account wide. I thought of Legend of Azeroth as like kind of a thing, but also we have seen from the Korthia stuff, from Korthia as well as the Maw vendors, that if we hit a reputation milestone on one character, there's already something that makes it so that it's unlocked for everybody. Now, it's different. It's different from a bona fide account-wide rep thing where your daily contribution on one character, even if, like you get 50 rep on one character and then you switch to another character and then you get 50 rep and now you gained 100 rep for the day, that's not a thing right now. And that's kind of the idea that I have. What if we explored that route? But what we have right now is if you hit a milestone, if you hit Honored and you get those rewards on one character, you can get those rewards on all your characters. But it's not consistent. And I think that consistent, if Blizzard wanted to do like a half step, that would be the way to do it. Just have those milestones unlock the rewards for everybody. The question then is does that take away from your alts at all? Why are your alts playing the game? And, I think that's a longer conversation to have. Feel free to chime in because I'm going to keep reading through this stuff. So, Nothing Here writes, I don't care much about reps. I care more about quest skips and renown. Farming renown for catch up felt better than farming it for a main. Korthia was boring after my 12th alt. I didn't even max rep there. I honestly can't stand dailies. I prefer world questies. Dennis Wolf writes, I kind of liked how reps work in mists, seeing different quests as you progress the rep. Oh, I love that. You know how you for those who may not remember, as you quested through mop reps, when you hit a milestone, there was like a couple small quests that you got to kind of indicate, hey, you're revered now. Here, let's progress through like this main storyline of the reputation. Here's the problem, and then we're progressing through it. And then when you hit Exalted, you get a capstone. There's a nice, cool reward from it. Woohoo! And then you're done. There's not much of a reason to go back, but it was still kind of cool. Even new hubs as you progress, the reps was kind of neat, and you can that you could farm rep from normal mobs guaranteed. And I'm fine if this is only for catch ups, so with an increase. Let's see. This is the developer for Azerpug, who writes, oh my god, wall of text in a tweet. Oh, not offensive at all. As a developer, purely basing things on what I would want is hard for me, and in a lot of ways, what I want is influenced by what I think is good or bad for the game. Okay, so at least they're trying to be like, this is a hard question to ask. I'm gonna react to this anyway, but feel free to take from it what suits you best. Maybe I'll tear you apart, Azerpug. I think I have one add-on that I'll be promoting from next week, because an add-on guide and add-on features coming. Yay! Rep farming for me is something that has always been a requirement for raiding in one way or another. I've personally never seen an issue with it. Everything in life we want has some sort of requirement that comes with that. What I dislike most is that very often it is such a hard make it or break it thing for power, while it is also something that if you stop for one day or not perfectly optimized once, you're permanently behind until you're maxed out. That feels extremely punishing. A better example was back in Cataclysm when we had those daily Valor dungeons swapped for 7 weekly Valor dungeons. The total was technically the same, but it was possible to skip a day and still be perfectly in par. Something similar for rep would be good, in my opinion. You know what's funny is that back in those Cataclysm days when we did have like the 1 week to max out our Valor via dungeon, I didn't do any of that until like the last day, and I was like, shit, cram, and then I did. And then it was kind of the same thing. Given the opportunity to procrastinate, I will procrastinate. That is my personality. We got 3 months to do this project. I'm like, cool. I'll see you in 2 months and 28 days. I'll get back to you guys. Group project. Woo! What did I miss? Sometimes I was that kind of person. I've gotten slightly better since. Anyway, both time gating and rep gating to me is not a problem. I see a lot when people rush through content and then complain there's nothing to do. I'm not one of those. I rush through on my main. Power always comes first and second. If I want to enjoy story, I can use an alt. What I absolutely do not want to see is rep becoming truly account wide, where 3 characters could get 3 times as much in a day or a week than 1 character, because that means playing more characters you play, the quicker you get your power from the rep. As a raiding community leader, I see big issues with how that would impact the game. Some people would play more alts to get things quicker, others would not. It offsets the balance in the game drastically, which will impact raid teams. This is the main part where I struggle to separate what's quote good for the game and what I would want. This would be extremely bad for the game because it would impact the raiding scene, for which I run a community and also write add-ons. Because it impacts others, it also impacts me. An account-wide weekly maximum would fix that mostly, especially if you make dailies back into repeatable quests, like 5 times a day, whatever. But at some point that week, you cannot get rep anymore. You would be able to choose what you would be able to choose what you want to do to get your weekly cap yourself. Playing 3 characters for 2 hours each would net you the same total rep that week as playing 1 character for 6 hours that week, making it account wide and alt friendly, but not a hard requirement to have and play as much alts as possible, and still being somewhat flexible content wise. So it sounds like, just like what we're all trying to be fairly reasonable. Shadow Fiend doesn't want rep at all. I disagree, but it's, hey, you want what you want. I ain't gonna knock you for it. Sam writes, I like reading books, and the protagonist in a hero story would typically progress their rep as the story progresses on, and to me that is great immersion, so I would love to see rep progress directly connected to storytelling. What's funny is that Renown does almost exactly that. Is that it's a weekly thing. We get story from it every time we complete, and we complete story, the Renown or whatever gets higher. In 9.2, we're not going to get that. We're not going to get like these little incremental thingamajiggers each week. That's coming in different forms, but definitely not the same thing. But I would say that Renown was basically this. It wasn't like, it wasn't a home run with every Renown level, but it was something, and we see our characters like progress a little bit. Duel writes, I really like something a la WoD, where I could just go to Tanar and Spires of Eric and kill Sabron and Ogres until the cows come home. Ideally, the reward is just cosmetic, a mount, a title, a tabard, etc. Any player power should be bind on account and reward at specific minimal grind intervals. But otherwise, I could just turn on some music after work, turn my brain off, and kill mobs for 5 rep a kill, all the way up to exalted for a neat tabard or whatever. The challenge that I am seeing grow more and more is that, okay, cool. If we had reputation rewards, be it almost entirely decoupled from player power, great. it gives raiders, dungeons, PvPers a reason to look at reputation as a side activity more than anything. But what about people who don't raid and do dungeons and PvP and stuff? They max out rep first. Not guaranteed, but the point is that the number of activities available for them is limited. And yeah, they'll be challenged to get into group content, and some people will rise up to the challenge, but what about those who don't? Is it okay that they feel left behind? At the moment, Blizzard says yes. So maybe that should be, or maybe that would be the way that they ultimately go. I feel like that turns off a lot. I feel like that turns off a lot of folks that feel like, hey, we like having some nice things too. What gives? But I don't have a complete thought on that. That's one of the big challenges that I don't have a solution for yet, because I want to try and get everyone in on it. And it's hard. That compromise is really tough to have. Ralph writes, account wide, so no new character has to refarm it again. New reputations can just be capped each week, so like seasonal currency or renown, so people don't feel the need to farm rep faster via multiple alts. Getting rep through things you do in the open world, as in fishing or professions like maybe cooking for the people you collect rep for, and quests with smaller stories, side quests. Drogovian writes, nothing locked behind rep that isn't cosmetic or account wide, like mounts, pets, and toys. So yeah, this kind of goes into the whole, why make this Legend of Azeroth thing? Why make an account wide system when there are already ways to do it? A wide number of variety of world quests and dailies. I can manage my own playtime. Keep Paragon caches, but lock nothing in them that can't be bought off the vendor. No endless grinds for rewards. So the rep rewards that we have now. So think of the Paragon caches that we have now between the 4 covenants and stuff. I feel like those are a bit too, that's limited to just pets. You get some pets. I think there's a mount too that you get from those. But for me these days, it's just been like gold, because the pets are so common these days that they have no meaning for them. There's nothing, there's very little to nothing special about these pets anymore, because we have such an abundance of them now. Even though they were in uncommon drop, you didn't get them every time. But I happen to have a shitload of them because I would just happen to do Korthia dailies that would double up on both Death's Advance as well as the reputation of whatever the hell covenant that I'm working with. And sometimes the reward from the quest was additional rep from those covenants, but I did them anyway because I'm like, oh, I'm here, I might as well overlap and do a bunch of shit at the same time. It's no big deal. And that's kind of the joy of having like all these centralized things in like kind of one place. Lastero writes, a mix of TBC and newer options, a quest line to reach friendly, maybe honored, with all the side quests in the zone, with one big weekly quest and just buying a tabard and being able to farm it in dungeons or Mythic Plus while wearing that tabard. As rewards, tons of cosmetic stuff only. I'm not fond of the tabard idea. To me, the tabard thing is, it's very limited. It's accessible for only people that want to run dungeons. Right now, if you think about it a little bit, there is there's the weekly quests in Oribos that give reputation of whatever the fuck faction you feel like. You choose I think you choose the reputation that you get that bonus for, and it's a fairly sizable chunk. It's not like massive, and it's not perpetual like a tabard would imply. The thing I don't like about it is that it's inclusive to dungeons. Not all people run dungeons. Not all raiders run dungeons. But people who run dungeons run dungeons. Brilliant! Wow. But yeah, to me, the tabard is it's a dodo. It's a dinosaur. Like it's just old. That's an old way of doing it. And I think there are other things that they've done that work well. As in, like you can do like a whole variety of things. And the tablet is just dungeons. So anyway. Peter writes, I'll just read it again. The way they did it in Mist was ideal for me. Spend an hour or going to all the various hubs and do 5 dailies, get rep, get out. The rewards and all the stuff you can get at the end, like the serpent flying, really felt like an achievement. Variety is the spice of life. You know, they say that a lot, and that's usually, you know, one of the more good platitudes that that people spout off, and you know that I can appreciate. Being able to do multiple things, a la Korthia weekly, Mechagon weekly, whatever. Hey, you killed this rare, you get credit. It's not rep, you get credit. Because with the Korthia weekly, you know, this kind of double dips, because you do like those rares, you get some rep. You do some of the dailies, you get some rep. But on top of that, you get like a really nice chunk as a weekly reward. The rep that you get from those quests is that's the extra from, you know, continued farming. But it's still all kind of orbits around getting that big weekly thing done, because you got a big chunk of stuff, including Renown, which is its own sort of rep thing. Lore Master Core writes, personally, I really like how most of them are now, just naturally gaining rep as I do quests and world quests. Way better than just throwing on a tabard and grinding dungeons. I love that. This person comes from the mindset of doesn't give a shit about, you know, the player power or whatever. Clearly, this person doesn't have or need to have a sense of urgency. He or she is racing against nothing. And some people like that, and that's fine. Stoic Taurus writes, 4 to 6 daily quests, 1 to 2 world bosses on a weekly reset. Nothing you do can speed that up. If you miss a day, you're behind, but who cares? You will get your Mog or Toyer mount a day later. Reps used to work like that, and there was no issue until player power started creeping in. So one of the prevailing themes is having player power. You know, I wrote it earlier in those notes. It's the difference between, you know, player power is, certain player power is fine. Player power that's a stepping stone, okay, cool, because we can move on from it. We can graduate from the reputation rewards. But when the reputation becomes a checkbox that we've got to hit in order to get to our goals, and, you know, the most offensive thing that comes to mind would be those Azerite essences from patch 8.2 and 8.3 as well. You need to get reputation to get like certain essences there too. That I find to be pretty offensive. To me, that's a magnitude too far in the wrong, in the wrong direction. Yeah. Anyway. Buddy writes, I want reps to blossom and open up over time. Suramar or Venari might be a good example of this. The more I farm the rep, the more the related zone unlock for me. More quests, special unlocks, and that kind of thing. And the rep itself blossoms too. First, I'm maybe just doing a weekly quest and some dailies, then world quests pop up, and then rares start dropping reputation. I want to accelerate my rep gains as I go. Sure, I need twice as much rep to go from Revered to Exalted, but I'm farming more rep per day than I was at Honored. We're seeing a bit of a reflection of that in 9.2, because as you're progressing through the cipher of the first ones, which is its own reputation-like thing, you open up more daily content. You open up more quest content, more accessibility, and so the rep gains get a little bit faster. But that's a different thing unto itself. Lord of the Warcraft writes, I like just having to kill mobs endlessly for small amounts of rep at a time. The perfect rep was Timbermaw. None of the reps like this should affect player power at all. Should only be for kooky and cool reward or cosmetics. Didn't Timbermaw drop a important enchant that some people really wanted to have? Oh well. Lively writes, I just want variation in how we get rep. Farming world quests is fine, but let us get rep via dungeons, kill grinds, and item turn-ins too. I don't like world quests because it's not on demand. Let me grind my life away. Wonderwez writes, decent storyline rep, world quests and world bosses, rares to a smaller extent, par for the current course, but add some rep quests to mission tables. They are. Surprise! At Revered, let me buy a tablet to farm rep in dungeons, raid, and Torghast maybe if I want to speed it up. And I do because I want the pets. Also, I like how they did Avowed rep in Revendreth this expansion, totally grindable, and it was a grind. It encouraged group play at the beginning for the most benefit, but soloable at a slower rate. Yeah, not everyone talks about the Avowed rep. I remember I featured it like at the start of the expansion, and I was like, hey, here's a thing you can just kind of perpetually grind in one sitting if you want, but no one talks about that. People talk, which I guess is a good thing. Flew under the radar. It was a thing to get. It was kind of important because you were able to get feast recipes from that. But these days, not so much. The rep grinds in BFA were a huge bummer for me, especially given I needed to unlock flying. Oh yeah, that's right, flying too, in Nashatar and Mechagon. After coming back from a break, I felt totally helplessly behind and extended my break longer than necessary because of it. Yeah, I totally forgot about flying. James Smith writes, I honestly miss using tabards and dungeons to pick a rep to farm. I talked about that. It's a dumb idea, just kidding, but I don't think it's a great idea. J. Roy writes, literally just equipping a tabard and what is that? Okay, 2 in a row. Okay. I was like, Echo? Here, third Echo, equip a tabard, run dungeons, rep from dungeons like in TPC, and account wide for some things like player power. And I think we're almost done. No time gate to rep or a bonus to alts like in Miss Pandaria. So takeaway that I'm getting from this kind of mirrors what the thoughts that I already, some of the thoughts that I already put down, which was kind of predictable. Trying our best to decouple player power from reps. Let the cosmetics be the motivation. And I think that's a big thing. If there was like a silver bullet, if we can do something almost immediately to kind of disrupt or even kill off the rep conversation, is to take player power off of those requirements. That's it. Do that, and all of a sudden the conversation dissolves, because a lot of the emotional satisfaction from that comes from player power is no longer there. From there, it's the emotional satisfaction of like getting a cool mount or a transmog or a pet or whatnot, which is still important. But I feel like that cuts off a big part of the audience, especially the vocal audience, from being part of that conversation. It's the difference between how it's like how a lot of people these days, they look at Zereth Mortis and be like, oh, so it's literally something I can ignore. GG Blizz, what a stupid thing, making something that we could just totally skip, lol. But then on the same vein, wow, Blizz, how dare you put that memory behind rep? Now I'm forced to farm this. This is stupid. It's the duality of fan, if that makes sense. I should read chat now. How many of you were like, bitch, I liked tabards, F you, dude? Serafino writes, with 915, I log in to do my weekly at Korthia, and then I raid, so I don't spend a lot of time on retail, the rest in TVC. In 9.2, there's a lot more to do on a daily basis once you unlock Flame and get your double legendary. Is there a lot? Oh, this is a question. In 9.2, is there a lot more to do on a daily basis once you unlock Flying and get your double legendary, or will it be about the same with only logging in to do a little bit every day, since I don't do PvP or Mythic Plus? I mean, it depends. If you don't do PvP or Mythic Plus and you raid, are there things that you want? The question is like, do you want to be able to make craft mounts? Do you care about transmog? Do you care about pets and all that stuff? And if not, then no, there isn't much for you to do. But the bigger question is, are there things to work for? Um, that was a big idea. Bellular had the NPCs should treat you differently at different reputation levels, and make it more personal. That is, I mean, that's something that we definitely see with overall story progression and arcs, where NPCs just start saying or doing different things. Reputation wise, we got that in kind of the reflection. If you go back to Miss Pandaria, we got that in a reflection of, hey, the quests are the quests are different. There are things that are added. I don't recall if there are dailies that were taken away. I think they were just like the variety grew and changed. But yeah, I remember that was something that I talk about a whole lot, and it had nothing to do with reputation necessarily, but also achievements. So, kind of the same thing where if you happen to be a famed slayer of something, then NPCs, as you walk by, they'll be like, oh my God, did you see that handsome little fuck over there? I heard that he slayed Sargeras. And then someone's going to be like, what the fuck is a Sargeras? Dude, that's like the king of all the demons and stuff. I know nothing about that. I just like sell shit in the auction house. Yeah, so it'd be cool if NPCs like did have a bit more layers to them beyond acknowledging your name, class, race. That's about it right now. Excuse me. Shank writes, I would prefer to see a way to literally grind reputation at my own pace. Will there be a portion of the community that no life set in the most optimal? I'm not moving from my chair for 48 hours. Sure, but I don't want to be punished because of others. I miss classic rep grinds that would start at a hostile and unfriendly, and over time letting you gain access to places like the Furbolg tunnels. I don't even remember that. Furbolg. Oh, you're talking about Timbermaw? I think you're talking about Timbermaw. Yeah, because you needed that to safely navigate your way to Winterspring. Or you just killed your way to it, which was fine too. Renown is actually a really good mechanic. What sucks about it is grinding Renown on alternate covenants for the millionth time. Well, the question I have for that is why rush the Renown grind when you already did hit 80 once and you've unlocked like the cosmetics, the memories, and that sort of stuff. The only things I can think of would be like, oh, I'm doing it so I can get the follower boost, or more followers, and yeah, and that's it. Rep is just tired and old, writes Melizzard. We remember the bad things more readily than the good, so whenever we're faced with Rep, we just remember how much it sucks, but to be honest, Rep has been fine for the last 3 expansions. Betty says, I agree, those pet drops were nuts, they should be more rare. Celtic loved the tabard. I think I'm pretty hardline about that, because I just feel very strongly that there are better solutions than a tabard. And I think that's, yeah, I don't think I can be sold otherwise at this point, because we've had so many things since, and in my opinion, they're just way better. I just say tie Rep to a ton of stuff like treasures, rares, dungeons, raids. Heck, you can even make it using the tabard. The tabard doesn't need to be limited to dungeons. It could be PvP, dungeons, raids, etc. that give Rep, or just some UI thing that you choose for the week or something. I don't know, like a tabard that I just throw on and I do dailies. That feels, I don't know, it feels janky. Because think of now, right now, when we think about, when we do world quests, in the Shadowlands zones, we have we paragoned. Okay, I've paragoned a bunch of times, and I don't really go out and do covenant callings or any of that stuff for a long ass time. I would just be like the mission table and Korthia. And Korthia just gave me so much rep that I was paragoning things anyway. So I don't think I feel like a tabard isn't necessary, because Shadowlands makes an example of how we can get all sorts of rep passively. Doing the Covenant Assault, that gives you a ton of shit. Hell, like for people who bother to remember, there are contracts you can set up. So yeah, you get a pathetic amount of rep by using a contract, but it lasts for a week. And for people who really work on that sort of stuff, that does allow for a little bit more doubling up. So maybe the smaller solution to that is to make contracts more powerful. No, ah. Um, but there's still a little bit of control because remember, there's still the developer design. That's still, like I said in the thing, we'll try to get away with whatever we can get away with. You give us an inch, we'll go for a mile. That's how we came to this. That's how we came to 9.2 with letting tier be accepted. One, we're getting tier back. That's great. But also we're getting tier back and all the big three can get access to it. That saves a tremendous amount of time and stress. Back in the day, high-end PvPers and the high-end dungeon folk, they needed to find a way to get into mythic raids. So that way they can get a chance to get like high-end tier because that was the only source. And now they have a path to it. Now you can have like straight up tier gear that has the PvP boost on it. That's fucking amazing. That's great. There is no either or. They can have both. And that's incredible. That is super cool. Somewhere out there, though, people are still harping on how Blizzard tries to extend your game time, extend your online time or whatever. But I haven't really paid attention to that little detail. Kind of convenient, anyway. Tabard shouldn't be just dungeons. But any rep gain, and let you buy them when you are reached honored. Anything less and you aren't worthy of one yet, but anything more, there's no point. Funnily, Mobs Dailies actually pushed me off of WoW after falling behind multiple weeks compared to everyone else. They also give us those weekly permanent buffs like during time walking or where the weekly is world quest that increase rep gains. Rep is such an easy. I agree. Like. I totally forgot about the weekly events. Weekly events, Dark Moon Fair, bonuses that we can like kind of stack. To me, the weekly events are fun in the sense that they give like a sort of dynamic boost. It's a soft steer for players into certain content. Hey, it's the World Quest event this time. I don't care about the anima, but damn, I get the extra rep from it. Yeah, let's go. And that's a cool thing. That isn't a thing like all the time. And because of that, sure, people who want to know life that rep, it's like, oh, it's only a week. I'm only getting this much rep out of it. That kind of sucks. But it also kind of frees people up too, because next week it might be something else. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll jump into this thing instead. And that's kind of the design of it. We just need to make it so that if you miss a day, you don't miss out. Emissaries and callings that stack up to 3, but dailies and world quests, once they're gone, and you miss out. That leads to the potential to miss out if you miss a day for any reason. So one idea that I had was, what if reputation only came from the weekly quest or the emissary or whatever, and that and all the rep went into those single quests that give a big chunk of rep, but you can contribute through all sorts of other ways. Through all sorts of means. So like take 9.2 for example. There's a weekly quest. Apparently you get it twice a week. Actually, you get a weekly quest. There is some rep that you get from rares, treasures, dailies, and stuff like that. But it's not much. But imagine if there was none. 0 rep comes from rares, dailies, treasures, blah, blah, blah. And it's all in that weekly quest. So in that case, cool, you have, the 3 or 4 days to complete that, which frees you up. You have a lot of ways to do it. And then once you're done, you turn that in and boom, you're good for the week. But the challenge from that is, are you done? Like, do you stop playing? What is it that you get that might at least sort of compel you to go back in. And that's where you get additional activities. And in this case, the Cypher, the Cypher Research Console, not reputation, but kind of sort of alternate stuff that gives just fun things, cosmetics, and stuff like that. So there's actually a lot that's going into 9.2 that tries to cater to these different audiences with different compromises. And when you try to spread it all out and look at everything and not just the things that you don't like, it's like, okay, there are a lot of things there's a lot of stuff that's going on here. There are a lot of pieces to it. It feels overwhelming, but when your boots are on the ground, you're like, okay, what am I doing? Okay, cool, I'm doing these things. It contributes to this, and it all kind of it all overlaps, because at the start of the week, you kill a rare, you do a world quest or whatever, you're getting ciphers, you're getting rep, you're getting cosmic flux, and other stuff that I missed. So a lot of that stuff is kind of already happening, which is sort of cool. I still think it could be better, and that's why we're talking about this stuff, because we got to think about other things. Oh, we switched to alts. Oh, okay, now things are getting even more complicated, and that's why, even though we're trying to talk about something as simple as reputation, it spills into like so many other things. Menergy says tabards are for people who don't want to rep in the first place. That's an interesting way to see it. And to that I say make rep optional. Getting small amounts of rep from associated dungeons is kind of cool though. Yeah, I thought that's kind of neat. You know, back in BC we got Shatar rep from doing Tempest Keep stuff, and that was kind of cool. During MOP we had the account bound token we can buy from the rep quartermaster that doubled the rep on all of our alts. Once we hit revered with the rep, I loved that system. See, what's funny is that we have that now, and maybe it's not getting through. Maybe I'm not explaining it very well, and maybe I'm wrong, but with Renown, that's pretty much what we got. But arguably better, because one, you don't exactly it's built in right away. You know, if you are capped because it had a weekly cap to it. So if I'm at Renown 10 and I roll an alt and I'm at Renown 1, but the current cap is 10, that alt with a Renown 1, they can catch up to 10. They just gotta work through it. Fast forward to like patch 9.15, there's a fucking boost that'll get you halfway there. 40 Renown, wow, in your face. And you have all these different methods in which you can catch up to like other folks. Folks who are at the front, they were incrementally going, 2 Renown a week or something like that. That's the compromise, right? You can go fast, but you can only go so fast. You can go slow, but hey, there's a thing that'll help you catch up. Thank you, Lapis, for subscribing, dude. I much appreciate that. I sold a buttload of those contracts though. Yeah, like maybe that's one of the small things that can be done. Just buff contracts. It's already there. You don't need to put on some goof ass tabard. I want to keep my Argent Crusade tabard on forever because it's the best tabard in the game. Straight up. When we had guild perks, one of the guild perks was an additional 10% to rep. I barely remember that. Why did my domination sockets disappear when I deposited my gear into void storage? When you put stuff into void storage, all sockets and enchants are scrubbed. I think there's a notification that tells you that. Blizzard's taking a big risk, honestly, good for players, but not having any big grinds that are needed is going to show if listening to people is healthy for the game or not. Maybe people just raid log from week 5. Part of me wonders, I still wonder, like, what were the numerous factors that led to warlords causing a huge dip, you know, such a massive dip in subscribers, because that's the only time that we can really get a measure on that anymore. But there are multiple facets to that, and the one that I'm kind of stuck on is that there wasn't really much to do in world content. There was very little to motivate players between the rewards, what you got, the power, the transmog. It wasn't quite there, but there were things. In reputation vendors from that expansion, most of that stuff was in fact cosmetic or related to your garrison, which would sort of translate into player power, but it wasn't a whole lot. I guess I think the problem there wasn't exactly the rewards, it was just the lack of variety. Just, hey, do these certain dailies, these are the only ways to get this rep. It was a fill up the bar quest, but like it was just that one quest and that was it. And I feel like that probably demotivated people in a lot of ways. But there are also a lot more things to do in the game now too. Back in Warlords there was there was only there was no Mythic Plus, there weren't Mythic Dungeons early Warlords. There were fewer features that gave things, outside of Garrison at least. Garrison had a thing, but there was, in my opinion, not a lot of reason to venture out to do a whole lot of stuff. It didn't have a whole lot of value. Legion had all sorts of stuff. It had artifact weapons. It had appearances for said artifact appearances, and other such things. BFA, BFA, I would say it had the greatest number of grinds for player power out of any expansion. Because one, it had a lot of things to farm for, and two, they were hugely impactful. Right now, 9.2, just around the corner, there are people bitching about the conduit upgrades. The conduit upgrade increased to, I think, 278 or something like that. And people are bitching about that. And I think I can safely argue that conduits, at least the difference between item level, 230, 240, and 270, it's not going to equate to like a 50% increase in your DPS. But that's what people have retreated to. Like, hey, there's a difference here. Let's bitch about it. All right, guys, let's go. Different critique, though. I feel like there's a problem with accessibility when it comes to those final conduit upgrades. Right now, if you don't know already, like the conduit upgrade, yeah, it goes up to 278 now. Up from 259. So that is, whatever the fuck math that is. But the requirement for it is to get, is the one, complete the last chapter of the 9.2 campaign, but you also need to either get Keystone Hero, which is to complete, I think, like, is a 20 or a 25 plus 20 plus 25 Mythic Plus dungeon, or to complete the raid on Mythic, complete the new raid on Mythic, or to have a Gladiator title, or to meet the requirements of Gladiator, which is what, 2100, 2200, and then you get the highest level conduits. And I find that really weird, that you got to do the hardest shit in order to get the best conduits. Now, the best gear, that's different, because gear feels more impactful. Conduits feel like a thing that, they're a thing that everyone should have, but the highest version of them is reserved for the best players, and that sits kind of funny for me, because it's a feature that isn't exactly going to, gear doesn't exactly follow us, but it's definitely a feature that isn't going to follow us outside of the Shadowlands, I'm pretty sure. So why give it that same sort of treatment, that the best of the best get the best version of all these things? And it's weird. Yeah, buff contracts does sound good. Yeah, give it to Inscription. That would be a super easy fix. Yeah, like, you know, I first started taking notes as if I wanted to do like this big feature. Maybe it's as easy as adding more reputation, adding more reputation contribution to other activities, and buffing contracts. Because well, here's what that does. It turns that whole idea of, hey, dude, if I get to revered, then I can get this account-wide thing. That's a personal thing, for the player, and then it extends to all of your alt, which is great. By moving this onto Inscription to contracts, then it becomes a server thing. It becomes server progression. The first bitch that gets that gets access to that contract is gonna be rich. They're gonna be hella rich. It moves it into the hands of players. Whoever gets that contract first will get that thing, and then everyone else will be able to benefit from it. And it's a continual benefit until you don't care about it anymore. I think that's kind of cool. Maybe people won't agree with it, I'm sure, because people will be like, no, I want a permanent buff. That's passive. And that's fine. That's a 100% okay critique to have. I don't think that's wrong either. But I think that's one of the tools that's available right now. Just needs some tweaking. Right? You can even bring those contracts back to old content. So yeah, so here's how contracts kind of balance themselves. They're kind of like, what's it called? Shit. They're kind of like Vansis runes. I don't remember exactly how they work, because they work for 7 days. I think. But I don't believe it's related to the reset. It doesn't go away the reset. It just lasts for 7 days. I haven't used them in a while. So what's up, Coach? We miss you, man. We miss your face. We miss your smell. You haven't been coming to raid. What's wrong with you? I'm just kidding, dude. Yeah, we were talking about contracts. I'm okay with that, to be honest. I know I won't get it, but you can get all the conduits. Oh, okay, that's conduits. That conduit item got removed from it was moved, actually. Woods. I don't know why it was moved, but it was moved to all the Covenant reputation vendors. Doesn't make sense to me. I don't see why, because those have nothing to do with the Covenant reputations at all, unless they plan on changing the item to something else. But right now, it was just moved there. Oh well. Have I talked about the blue post about the Love Rocket drop rate? Apologies. No, I have not talked about it. Maybe we will. Right now, I'm still stuck on this whole reputation thing. There are people who are upset with how the garrisons were implemented after being promised, like being able to choose zone and okay, so it was so many things, Celtic. Yeah, it was so many small and big things that turned players off and made people feel like, okay, not only does this not feel fun, but I feel like Blizzard is, disrespecting me and blah blah blah, which is, okay, I didn't mean to use that mocking tone, but that's how people felt, and that's probably like a whole bunch of reasons. Been back to creating and practicing my video editing. Oh, right on, dude. I was giving Coach there, or Justin Classic, I was giving him shit over a like a little intro thing that he did. It had a Borderlands feel to it. You know how that goes, guys, for people who play Borderlands? It's like, okay, something, blah, blah, blah. And then here's like a still shot, and then it zooms in, and then you get like the splash of like the dude's or, the person's face and all that stuff. And I was like, dude, why is it so dark? You gotta brighten yourself up a little bit. He's like, dude, I did. There's lights all over the place. I'm like, well, not in the most important places. Anyway, I totally veered off topic. Shank says, I think the biggest lesson Blizzard can learn is to stop designing for expansions and start designing for WoW. So many systems developed to just live in their expansion. Um, that's it's tough. I get what you're saying. To me, like the things that have to do with player power, they only live in that expansion. That kind of sucks. But it also allows for, on the flip side, it has also allowed that freedom of just doing crazy shit. The thought that I have when it comes to the notion of borrowed power is that in future expansions, I would like to just see it given to us. Now, in Shadowlands, they did give the power to us. Choose your covenant, boom, there's your power. Let's pretend that there's no. Let's pretend that covenant swapping was a thing at the start. Right? We were just given that power. We can play with it. Hey, cool. To me, part of the problem was they wanted to have something to work towards within the covenant that had to do with player power. That came in the form of covenants. That came in the form of conduits. I don't think that was a good idea. I feel very strongly that conduits should have just been given to us, like all of them, right away, all at once. And that conduit power, the power of our conduits, the strength of it, should have just gone up with renown. That's it. Just make it sort of like a passive, progressive thing. So that way our goals as players aren't, that we're not being dragged around from place to place in order to power up this thing that we're probably going to say goodbye to in 2 short years. From there, though, I would say that the focus of gaining player power, don't put it behind making stronger legendaries. Don't necessarily put it behind getting stronger conduits, but just make the gear translate to that a little bit better. And so that way things are a little bit more gear centric. Now there are arguments that fly against that too, and there's a jackhammer. Sorry about that. There are arguments against that notion as well. That so it's just big 3, huh? Raid or die. That that's the only way to get like greater power. I don't think so. I do think that what they've done for Korthia, for Zereth Mortis, in terms of like, actually Zereth Mortis does a way better job of it. World buffs, things that make people on the outside feel powerful are great, fantastic. People haven't talked about this. I haven't been talking about it much lately, but in Zereth Mortis, you get Cypher gear. You get gear that is going to get stronger as your progression through the Cypher of the first ones. It eventually goes up to 246, so it's not that great, but it's great for world content. I do think it could be better. I do think that players should have access to tier pieces, because I look at tier pieces the same way that people look at conduits, the same way that people look at covenant abilities. People should just have them. Just give people access to them. As for the power of those conduits and the gear and the covenant abilities or whatever, item level does a perfectly fine job of separating that, separating players from that. People who, folks that are really into like big 3 stuff, that say, hey, the casuals or the solo players, they should be kept down there. They shouldn't have the nice things. It's funny that they say that, but they also want to have more accessibility for, I just talked about this. These PvPers, they want to have accessibility to raid gear. Dungeon folks, they want to have accessibility to raid gear because they don't want to have to do content that they don't need to do for the content that they actually want to participate in. Same thing goes for solo players, but they were left out of the conversation, and that kind of sucks. Same thing for them. They don't want to have to do this activity or this activity or this activity to get things that they feel like they should have inherently. It's kind of like talents. Everyone gets talents. Well, back in the day, everyone got talents when the new talents came out. What if those talents were only accessible if you ran big 3 content? That's how solo players feel. right now. They don't get access to things that would be cool otherwise. Now, again, tier gear might not be the best argument to make for something like this, even though that's primarily the argument that I'm trying to make for this, because tier set bonuses have a specific function. A lot of the times that's not going to translate well out in world content. That's fine. But I don't think it's a big ask either. I don't know how I got into tier with this conversation. I missed the raid and party buffs that we used to have, but I kind of understand why they were removed. They're still there. Those fucking monk and demon hunter stuff, that's still there. They're just kind of soft, but they're still around. This was a fun conversation so far. There's just so much. It's just so much going on with this. But the takeaways that I have right now, based on everything that we've been talking about, are that when I present this, when I start talking about reputation, I'm not gonna have a fix. Here's the thing, guys. Here's my idea. I don't think that's gonna work out because we're all over the place with different opinions and things like that. But I will talk about the possibilities. I will talk about the tools that are available. I'll talk about historically what we've had. And I'll try to throw all these things, and I guess I'll try to sort of throw these things together. Like, what if we had a combination of this? What if we did something like this? And, hey, folks at home watching, this isn't meant to be like hey, here's the idea, but here are the tools that we have. What can we do? Not exactly tools, but here's what we had before. What can we do with these things to make things better? The inscription solution is not half bad. I think it's easy. It's hella easy. Now, let's embrace that for a little bit. Hell, maybe by the time I get to writing this, I'll be so stuck on it that I'll be like, no, this is it. Let's just fucking do this. Because this doesn't solve everything. Because there's a balance to it. But we have to respect that balance. We gotta still respect that design to a certain extent. If contracts were the thing, if they just buff contracts, then it creates a server-wide, like a server-wide progression. Once somebody hits revered, who happens to be a scribe, they're going to be rich. they're going to have, the contracts will start being divvied out, and people will be able to get like these buffs. Now, what needs to be done with contracts to make them feel a bit more fair? Because I don't recall, like, if you can right click and cancel a contract, can you turn that off, or is it stuck for a couple days? But what is cool is that once you have that contract on, then the question is, okay, what applies? Should it just be like a bonus from reputation that you get? Should you also get it from each and every individual mob kill? Should those things like contribute to it? I don't know, but I think it's a bit more. It's slightly more immersive than just throwing on a tabard, and just going whatever. But that's just one piece of the puzzle, though, right? Because we gotta consider, what is it that we're farming for? Player power? I think there's a lot of folks, and I mostly agree with these folks, that I don't think we should have that. I don't think that player power beyond basic gear, as in item level equivalent to Mythic 0. I think that's what it is right now, right? An item level equivalent to that, I don't think it needs to go any higher than that. It's cool for people who run world content because it's relevant for them. It's strong, cool. You know what'd be cool? So here's no idea. So I'd have to double check. But if rep rewards are the equivalent of Mythic 0 gear, technically Mythic Zero gear is upgradable, right? Up to a certain point with Valor. So this is me just using an existing feature. What if, like, what if part of the end game for people who just run world content in the point zero of an expansion, like it'll go all over the place afterwards, but what if in the point zero of an expansion, you can eventually create like a full gear set from, by collecting stuff from different reputations and then upgrading that stuff with Valor. It's sort of convoluted though, right? Because it's like, okay, I got to wrap up with this and get all these things up, and then I can get the gear, and then I'm also doing the Covenant Callings or whatever, so I can get the Valor, so I can get the thing. So now we're kind of creeping into more stuff because, like, okay, where can we get more Valor? Can we get more Valor from like the Daily Heroic, or is that not going to be okay because not everyone wants to do the Daily Heroic? But it's very low, but that's very accessible too. There are people who can run in and fail at it and just be a corpse while everyone else completes it, and then you still get Valor. Maybe that's okay, or maybe not. It's really easy to jump into like all sorts of different tangents. And is that peanut butter? You're having peanut butter. Oh, you're giving me half. Oh yes. You would be like, you walked in here with a peanut butter thing and I smell it and you wouldn't give it to me now. Thank you, babe. I love you. Yes. You know that one commercial where Ludacris is eating peanut butter and then he raps? That is like one of the most hilarious commercials that I've seen in like a while. That was good. I love that commercial. If anyone hasn't seen it, or if anyone doesn't like it and you don't like Ludacris, you guys are fucked up. That's how I know how old you are. Maybe. Oh. This is going to take a while, so. Any other thoughts on reputation? Or contracts? Stuff like that. Oh, yeah, I do. I've got hoes. I've got hoes. Oh, man. It's not being shown there? Oh, dude, you should look it up. It's probably on YouTube, man. Just type in Ludacris and peanut butter. You'll probably find it. It's a short commercial, but it's like, oh, that's fun. Ooh. As you got renown, you got perks, so you're being rewarded as you grind. Instead of grinding. I think when I talk about this, I'll get to the squats later. I think when I produce this, I'm gonna really narrow my conversation to just reputation because there's so many pieces to this. There's so many pieces to progression and what we feel is progression, prestige, rewards, stuff like that. And it's going to be really easy to get lost in this conversation. So maybe I should just limit it very, very, to make it very, very narrow in scope. And just be like, hey, what do you guys think, dude? When it comes to basic reputation, I do like renown. I think it's great as a pacing sort of thing. the only, I guess the big takeaways that I have here, and I'm trying, to and if I want to try and simplify this as much as I can, it would be decouple player power, as an end game player power from reputation, and also buff contracts. I think that's it. Do like a little overhaul on contracts and how that works. Yeah. I can't see. I mean, yeah, that's it. Because that way, if most rewards on rep vendors are cosmetic, inherently that means they're going to be account wide. So it's not a big deal. The revered rewards, where gear typically is, not all, but a lot of it, they're things that could be important for that individual character, because maybe that character doesn't do any high-end content or whatever, and that's it. Now, I wondered to myself too, though, like, should those reputation rewards, the gear, should that update with the season? I don't know. I think that would be kind of a mess. Yeah, I think that would be a bit messy. But also, like, how would players treat that? How would they really treat that? The whole notion that getting a rep bonus or contracts are going to be a server progression sort of thing. I think it's going to mean that players in the front. How would that work? Because I'm trying to think to myself, like, wouldn't some people be demotivated to play at all until the contracts are available, right? But or would they just be demotivated to do that content until the contracts are available, because most of what you're getting from that reputation is cosmetic anyway. But then I also wonder again, in that case, what do people do? What would motivate people to log in each day? Is it just the premise that the content is good and fun and people would do it for nothing? So that's kind of what it would be for people who don't value cosmetics. People would just want to log in for the hell of it. And maybe that's okay. Nah, the kiss technique is, I hate you. I don't like that because it's super condescending. Especially because it's coming from us, from armchair devs. And I don't think developers are stupid. I find that highly offensive. Oh, well, I'm not offended, but I think it's a fucked up term to use. Because I'm no dev. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just a fan. Honestly, if rep worked like Renown, I'd be happy. One weekly quest for maybe like 3k reputation. If they did that, the people wouldn't do anything and let others do the work. No, yeah, I want to hear things that make this sound like a shitty idea. The people who quit till the end of the expansion, so they miss the time gain, will probably quit between contracts, and that's okay. Have a minimum of whatever to get said items. That's already built in, actually. So in order to use a contract, thanks, Jackhammer. In order to use a contract, you need to be friendly with that faction. So that's actually kind of smart. here's my headcanon. So the reason why they did that was to get you started, to kind of get a taste of what's to come by farming up to friendly or so. And then the players is challenged. They challenge themselves to think, okay, so do I want to keep going or do I want to wait for the contract? Well, if I keep going now, then I keep going now. And then by the time the contract comes, then I'll just get that much more, but I'll still be that far ahead. And I'll be used to the routine. Yeah. If the contract is too powerful, though, then yeah, the contract needs to be balanced in such a way that there's value in using it, and people do use them, people buy them, but it shouldn't be so powerful that players are willing to wait. Fuck it, I'm not going to do anything. Once I hit friendly, I'm done. I'm going to wait till some of these bitches hit revered. And then when contracts are out, then I can play the game. But it also doesn't take, for people who, for the no-lifers who really go for it, it doesn't take long to hit. It doesn't take long to hit revered with most any faction anyway. So that's we're counting in the number of weeks. And in the meantime, players, those players who are just willing to wait, they'll do other things. Maybe they'll do the dailies for the fuck of it sometimes. And that's it. I guess the point of the contract is to kind of free things up. So it's like we drop into Zereth Mortis or Korthia or whatever. We work our way up to friendly or whatever. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's friendly that we need to get to in order to use the contract. Which involves some of the questing, a little bit of daily stuff. And then when we do get the contract, I'm trying to tell myself what the contract would do exactly. When we get the contract, it will, one, give us a bonus, a reasonable bonus to the current reputation rewards. And it should also free us up to also get reputation from other sources as well. So you do the contract, and sure, you can go into a dungeon, and then you get a small amount of reputation from kills there, or from just bosses. I think if you just did kills, then people would just farm heroics or mythics or whatever, which might be fine too. It just depends on the amount that you get. But yeah, both. So you'll get bonus rep from any world quest that you do, or any dungeon boss or raid boss that you kill, and on top of that, you get a bonus to your to the reputation that you get from doing those daily quests. But it needs to be reasonable. So, yeah, it's got to be reasonable to a point where it doesn't. I don't know what the number is. Maybe I just won't pretend to know what those numbers are, but it's got to be something. Consider these things, and limit it at that. Thinking about it, I'm not completely against character-bound reputation. I think Covenants made that right. It was actually interesting having 4 tunes in the 4 Covenants to check story and get those transmogs. I think my point is that I'm against rep grinds that are repetitive between alts. For those, the reputation should be account-wide, like Korthia, Legion, Isles, and Nomergon or whatever. I would love to see profession patterns not learned from the trainers learned account-wide. So that way people don't have to worry about dropping professions that are no longer obtainable patterns. Plus would help if someone learned a pattern that can only be obtained if your alliance or horde, like the one leatherworking bag that can only be obtained from the one world quests. I don't know, just like how legendary memories are account wide and stuff, people want that because that's directly related to player power. But in old what are now old enchants that don't have a whole lot of relevance right now anyway, even in Mage Tower or Time Walking scenarios. I'm still not sure about account-wide recipes, for professions and stuff. I think contracts are like 10 extra rep per world quest. Make it 20 and get it from dungeons and raids and battlegrounds. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know what the values should be. I think I'm just going to focus on like the premise and like, hey, this is the possibility. What do you guys think? I do think that if rep grind is going to be as important as it has been or more so, you need to be able to get it from a lot of different sources. Running this dungeon over and over gets old real quick. Yeah, but so does anything. Yeah, so does anything ever. Well, this conversation is dead. What conversation? We wanted to ease the rep requirement, and it no longer made sense for it to be offered by the enlightened vendor. I still think it should have been left on the enlightened vendor. Oh well. Now I do wonder though if how is there any other path to 278? Because I haven't seen it yet, and I'm like, huh. Yeah, I'm not sure what the intent is there. I have 20 squats in queue right now, I believe. Anyway. They're 10 now unless you're human, but they should be 25-ish. Make it roughly 200 per world quest, and dungeon bosses 275 per kill with a contract. So this is at the risk of scope creep, which is a short description of giving the developers more work than they need to do. What if contracts only lasted for like a certain amount of reputation? So think about it like this. So let's say like, here's a contract. You use the contract and that gets you, I don't know, 2,000 bonus rep. And you can do fuck all whatever. Do a qualifying thing. Dungeon, raid, extra world quest, you get a bonus. Whatever the bonus is. But you cannot cancel the contract. You must complete it, and once it's done, then it's done. Yeah, because again, that puts the whole rep boost thing into the hands of the player economy, and I'm biased towards the player economy. Like I know people are bitching about crafting legendaries and how much of a pain in the ass that is, but that also feels very, very roleplay to me. The fact that there's scarcity, the fact that people who started doing the crafting thing, they might have quit. Not everyone made it to the very end, but those who did, they're getting huge dividends from that stuff. I'm a big fan of supporting the player economy and making gold move. Do contracts have different power for each rep? I don't know. We're just talking ideas. Just what do you think? You can't. Oh yeah. So you can't cancel current contracts. Okay. So I'm wondering to myself, like, would that not encourage like the most degenerate behavior if you could just keep doing contract after contract? Like, okay, I get a contract, and then I get like 2,000 bonus rep from this contract, and then I kill it real quick, and then I just move on to the next one. Yeah, it'd be kind of weird. Has there been discussion on changing the amount of rep needed for each level? No. I haven't talked about that because then we're getting into math territory, and I don't think I think we'll get way too distracted by talking about the math of things. This stream is brought to you by Big Crafting. Oh yeah, dude. What if contracts also open up missions with big rep value, kind of like the anima conductor, but those quests and activities give substantial rep? Oh, that'd be neat too, dude. So let's say, you know, in patch XO, whatever it is, there's like 5 different reputations. You get a contract, and then you get a contract for one of those reputations, and that reputation happens to give you a special quest that gives bonus stuff. That'd be a cool way to translate it too. It would be, yeah, that would feel more tactile, feel a bit more roleplay. Do we want to have quests that are exclusive to having a contract though? I guess that's not very exclusive because you just need to buy the item, use it, and ta-da, you get access to that addition. Yeah, so it's like, remember, just different ideas. Using a contract will unlock an additional quest, daily quest for that week. No. I don't think I'd like that, because that goes back to the whole, okay, I use this contract. Now I would literally lock myself into a contract that I must log in every day to do this additional daily quest. So maybe instead it could be like a weekly quest. You unlock a weekly quest to do stuff, and you do all the things, and you get a really nice chunk of bonus rep. Or we could just go back to the whole bonus thing. You know, do a bunch of stuff while under contract. You know, go. You know, do as much as you can. I guess that would translate a little bit funny though. Because then we would need to consider, oh well, how much stuff are you going to get from it? And I do think that there ought to be like kind of a cap to it. Maybe make the contract quest like the one that we get in Korthia to slow the so make it a weekly quest where maybe farming dungeons won't give rep directly, but it'll give credit towards completing that quest, right? The works, but how does it integrate with a fixed amount of rep for the contracts? And if it does, should it only work when you upgrade from friendly to honored and so on and so forth? Yeah, so yeah, there's tons of stuff to consider, but like I said, that sounds like a cool idea. You know, doing things with contracts, a new weekly quest, and you can only have one at a time, something like that. Why only one at a time? Arbitrary? Maybe. My biggest issue with rep at the moment is grinding world quests for weeks on end, so a weekly quest would be nice. I mean, is that what people would prefer? Would they prefer that world quests don't give rep at all? And that the whole point of them is to give credit towards the big weekly thing? Did I talk about using reputation to unlock content other than rewards, like how rep used to be used to unlock dailies? Like how rep used to be used to unlock dailies to accelerate rep? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Mage Master. Right now, we're on this whole idea of using contracts from Inscription to give maybe a weekly quest to like do things, you get credit for stuff, and then you get a nice chunk of reputation or something like that. Because contracts work with a single rep, it stands to reason that you only get a quest for yeah. Not to go off topic, but tomorrow we get to find out if the Ashes Galakaros leak is legit or not. It says it's coming on. Oh, please. I'm pretty confident, boys, that all of them are mega fake. So I think we need to be careful. The less things that give rep, the more it becomes Blizzard is forcing me to do blah 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 to get this. Well, it's the difference. So Draken, it's the difference between getting rep from a world quest and getting credit from that world quest to go towards a big fat weekly. So it's just, we're not taking things away necessarily, we're moving it. So imagine like if in 9.1 or whatever, instead of getting reputation from each of these world quests and all that, we only got the credit, but the reward that we get from turning in that weekly is like substantial. It would be what we would get otherwise. 100% it's Dragon Isles. Oh, that's how we know it's not. Thank you, Justin, for confirming that we're going to have a beach expansion. Nice. I think we need to be careful. The less kill X mobs, go to dungeon X and kill big baddie, do something PvP. I mean, it's a contract. So the contract, it'll entail like a fixed thing, you know. Hey, you're signing up for a contract with the Avowed. So now, you know, the things that the activities from this and this and this, you're doing it under our banner. You're going to get credit for this. And ta-da. You mean like how each time you hit a new rep level, you will unlock more dailies? Kind of, yes. I mean, we see that. Did we see that in Shadowlands? We saw this in the form of the campaign stuff. In 9.1, it was soft. We got one additional daily from that. Woohoo. So that wasn't much, but it wasn't tied to reputation at all. It was just tied to renown. In 9.2, we're going to get more dailies and a bit more variety not as we progress through reputation, but as we progress through the ciphers of the first ones. So it's different. Would a meet and greet be within the realm of possibility? Probably not. I am very, very comfortable in my present space of not having people around me. So I'm shy. I have a certain comfort zone that I'm not super comfortable around people. Even if you guys know me, like I don't know you, and there's a certain anxiety that comes from it. Like at BlizzCon, someone approached me and say, "Hey, would you autograph something?" And I was a deer in headlights. I had no idea how to handle that. And there are some times where other times I would run into like people who viewers and stuff who recognize me, like, oh, and then we chat for a little bit and we try to we chat, but I feel very awkward, so it's tough for me. Golden Lotus had this thing where each time you hit a new level with it. Yeah, I remember that, Celtic. It was very extensive. I really enjoyed how they did that, and if possible, I'd love to have that again. I would love to have that again, because that felt really cool. I'm too cute for meetings with tall folks. Yeah, so I just can't meet people. Can't meet people. So you get achievements for having so many reputations. Why don't they have specific achievements that give rep for what they are taught? So you get achievements for having so many reputations. Why don't they have specific achievements that give rep for what they're tied to? So if I ever see you on the streets, I shouldn't ask you to sign my butt cheek? Nah, bro. Dude would look at me, she'd be like, no, dude. And I'll be like, I'd look back at you. No, dude. Sorry. So we all agreed that my statement and comment on the Twitter was the best, lol. Yes. Lol, so peeps, if you approach Soul at BlizzCon, be ready to give them instructions on how to autograph your swag. it was so embarrassing when when I finally left those people. I'm sure that they were like, "Oh, that guy's weird," and I walked away from that. Oh my god, I felt so weird, so weird. Super curious now. By the way, it might be coming out left field, but what is your favorite zone or dungeon in the game? There are hundreds of those fuckers, man. My favorite zone or dungeon. I never have favorites, but I have ones that are especially, I might have ones that are especially memorable because of a thing. Um, I was talking yesterday about Osruck, an encounter from Cataclysm, and it just destroyed people because it didn't have visual indicators of its giant stomp thing. It was a conversation comparing WoW to other games that use very clear visual indicators of dungeon mechanics or boss mechanics. But I found that boss to be pretty memorable because of that. Because I would laugh my ass off, being like, "Oh, too close, bitch," and then they'll be like, "Dude, but I'm farther than you are." Well, the game disagrees, fucker. That was memorable. At least off the top of my head, I don't have a super favorite that's like, yeah, I'll run this thing forever, because I'm not a big dungeon person. I ran dungeons purely out of necessity. I want a Valor cap. I want this. I need to do daily heroic so I can get this thing. And when I didn't have to, I didn't do it. But as for a favorite, none really come off the top of my head. They were all a thing. So did I get it right? Do I have to pull my butt out? Oh god. Mop reps had issues due to being too much of them, and they felt mandatory. Yeah, I think that was mop reputation's biggest flaw was the reward behind them. Right? Let's pretend. Back in the day when I think back then the daily quest limit was lifted by then, right? Or was it still 25? Once upon a time it was 10, then 25, and then they lifted it all together. But I think the biggest problem that Mist had with its reputations were the rewards. People felt like they had to do it because they had to get a certain recipe, a certain thing. And if they didn't, oh no, bummer. There was a sense of server-wide progression with the reputations because some of them were crafting recipes. Whoever got the crafting recipe, cool. They're going to be rich. They're going to make a whole lot of money by selling the enchants or tips or whatever. But I do feel like the biggest problem was needing to hit those thresholds too. It was kind of a double gate, right? Like not only did you need to get the rep requirement, you needed to have the valor, or whatever the currency was called at the time. Coins of whatever, I don't know. I don't remember anymore. To me, that was the biggest problem. That made me like, ugh, gotta do these or else, and that kind of sucked. Only if you have a tattoo of Bob on your ass. Where the mouth is where the butt is. The butthole is. That would be awesome. I'm pretty sure Soul would never sign where I have a tattoo of Bob. Oh, God. When's he coming home? Great question. It was lifted at the end of Mob. Oh, at the end of Mob. Okay. I'm trying to remember how angry I was back then. Yeah, because I remember like at one point, like when you got your reps up, I think you did run out of room. Didn't we? Like we had to push things off. There were some reps that we couldn't work on because of daily quest limits. Not a lot of people remember that. Okay, so Fala points out. Okay, that was for the. Those were for the tokens of lost hope, right? Mop reps included. Okay, apart from that, it was the best. I'm doing them all on the 5th time for the fun of it. Oof. You love those. God damn. Yeah, once I was done, I was done. It took me a while to actually. I don't even know if I finished. Did I finish the the fucking Cloud Serpent dailies? I don't know if I finished those. Because at the time I was like, does it get me item level? No? Fuck it. I'm good. I guess at that point I was so burned out that I was like, why am I doing these? This is just taking up my time. And I think a lot of people didn't do all the side quests either in Shadowlands, quests that are either not tied to the main storyline rewards or reputation for that covenant that you were questing in. I mean, to be fair, Woods, there were not a lot of side quests in Shadowlands. To me, that was a symptom of the pandemic, and they had to cut things, and I think side quests were a thing that they definitely had to cut. In 9.2, there are a surprising number of side quests that, even after doing some of them just the other week, they give nothing. They give gold. You learn a little bit more about the zone, but that's it. Those are bona fide side quests that you don't need to do. I don't even think you get rep from those quests, and so I'm sure people are going to be like, "What's the point, Blizz? Did you read the stuff? Did you learn more about the zone? No. Where's the item level?" And it's like, well. Are they part of an achievement? Nothing that I know of. I love Baby Yoda, but he feels out of place. I just want to hug Baby Yoda and say it'll be okay. I wonder if the batteries are still charged on that thing. It would have been fine if they didn't get rid of the tabard system from Kata. Earlier, Mage Master, I think we talked about I talked about tabards, and how they kind of suck. Not everyone agrees with me on it, but I think I've kind of settled on the idea that we've gone way past that. There are much better things that we can do that work like tabards, but just way better. And that's why we kind of like settled on contracts as a kind of like as a bit more of a fluid thing. But anyway, and even that's not like a perfect idea either. The Covenant Sanctum party activity kind of counts as the fluff reps, but some are vastly better than others. I'm actually having fun. I've been doing the Ember Court stuff, and right now I'm having a problem with Sika. Sika's a punk bitch, dude. Like, I keep everything clean, and Sika's just never satisfied. Fuck Sika, dude. All day. I'm like, dude, what your standards are like ridiculous. Everyone else is perfectly happy. Even other people that value a clean party, they're happy. But not Sika. Sika's a fucked up, man. So fucked up. Is it part of flying? No. The side quests are side quests. That's it. Contracts are a cool idea. They should just interact with more than just world quests. Yeah, that's primarily it. Like, I was like, dude, throw in a contract and then go do dungeons. And ta-da. The question that I'm posing is whether those contracts should be capped to a certain point. You know, like, so for example, like, you'll get a certain amount of rep by just doing fucking dungeons, world quests, or whatever. But should it cap at a certain point? Because you could perpetually farm that to a point where someone would, may be able to just get that contract and max out their rep in one reset. Is that okay? I don't know. Because the other side of rep that I want to tackle are the reward systems, or not systems, but the rewards that you get. That most of them are going to be account-wide anyway. And I feel like this is the least complicated way to go about it. Employ contracts, revamp them, overhaul them a little bit, make them feel even more useful by broadening the scope of what contracts cover. But maybe as a bit of control, have a maximum cap to it. Like, 3,000 rep or 2,500 to 3,000 rep. That's fairly significant. That's a lot of stuff. 3,000 rep, right? 3,000 bonus rep for that week. Up to 3,000 bonus rep for that week, as long as you're like doing stuff. Some shit like that. I'm at 30 now. Pushing the idea of contracts for the week, you get X more rep for pretty much everything. You have to do you have this extra activity. One of my favorite features in Legion was when my rep became exalted, how random NPCs would say nice things to me, or whenever I ran by them. That was such a nice roleplay centric touch. Yeah, was that from Legion? I don't remember being spoken to. Yeah, I don't remember that too well. I remember I got plenty of love in my order hall, though. Man, I was a fucking rock star. They're like, dude, will you sign my butt? And I'm like, absolutely. Because that's in game, and that's totally different. What's that mental disability that makes people always want to clean? I think Sika has that. I think it's called meth. Don't cap it. Cap new reps if you need to pace it, but nothing old or cosmetic. Yeah, that's the discussion that I don't mind still having, or that I still want to have, like whether or not there should be a cap at all. Because by moving this whole rep thing onto contracts, that asserts player economy. So I wonder to myself, should there be like a reason for people to continually farm contracts? And a cap is one way to do it. The other alternative would be to make it so that, yes, you can farm, you can do other things with rep, but you're not going to get much of a bonus out of it. The bonus would be considerably less. And what that would also do, so for example, hey, I just want to be able to farm dungeons and get all this rep and blah, blah, blah. What does that do for people who don't do dungeons? They'll be like, oh, these contracts are useless to me. What the fuck's the point? Why'd you do that? Oh, you're doing it because the big three is important than us solo players. Fuck you, Blizz. And I want to avoid that too. So I want to keep listening to more input as to what can work best, or what's a decent compromise that people can be like reasonably happy with. It's never going to be 100%. Someone's going to be butthurt about something, but I don't want large segments of the player base just because they're quiet, just because they don't watch streams and stuff. I don't want them to feel ignored either. Does that make sense? I hope so. Because I'm guessing. You could have contracts, but also change the rep system to have extended caps like Valor. People would cry time gating, but I think they would get over it. So like weekly caps and stuff like that. I think when it comes to pacing, there is a certain respect that I want to have to the pacing if the developers want to pace certain things. I also think that there's less of a reason to pace things if there aren't any significant like power related rewards on those rep vendor peoples. I think that would be okay. It frees things up. It makes the impact of not pacing to be not as bad because people are still kind of like doing their thing. I'm still a big fan of that. The whole idea of making reputation feel like renown, or to make it feel like, something like a weekly cap, like Valor Conquest and stuff. I think that's what, who's that? Shankleton's. That's what he's pretty much saying. Let's see. Because what that also does too is make it, by having a weekly cap that goes up, it makes it so that, the playing field is a little bit more even. People who are in front, they're not too far in front because there's a stopping point. People who are in the back, they still need to put in the work, but they can just keep going. So people who come in late, they just see this rep thing, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to work it. But is it necessary? In the context of there being no significant power reward from those reputation vendors? And I don't think so. And I might run with that. I never watched a stream in my life, not even now. What? Let's see. Good job, he said. Okay, you still need to do the work as reps usually entail. Yeah, I'm seeing, if we don't have, major rewards beyond like basic gear, as long as, the big takeaway is as long as the power related rewards behind a rep vendor are more like a stepping stone and not like, I need to have this in order for me to have this character ready. It's one of the requirements of this character. And that's subjective too. I get that. Not everyone needs to have like a rank 3 essence or whatever. But having that there as like a principle, I think, it makes it very questionable. Especially because we'll abandon it at some point later too. Do I want to segue into whether these reps should be shared account bound? Yes, let's go back to that, because that's how I first came to this conversation, is to ask myself, how do we make things account wide? And the original conversation that I was trying to have was, what if we just have, what if all reputation is decoupled from characters and reputation becomes a player achievement? That's what I was trying to embrace here, which gets into like all sorts of crazy shit. What's up, Arian? First time caller. Hi. Yeah, so the idea that I originally had was to create kind of change things up and make it clear that there's going to be this account wide tracking thing, which already exists. It comes in the form of the collection system, and I just gave it a name. I gave it the name Legend of Azeroth. The feature is called Legend of Azeroth, and that's basically the UI that's where transmog, pets, mounts, titles, achievements, and then reputation. All of it's gonna sit on this thing, and then you can see all your reputation and it would get complicated. And that's why, as I was talking with folks throughout today's stream, eventually we found something that is much less intrusive, that leads to far fewer questions on how it works. And we settled on the whole idea that, okay, cool, I get it. People want account-wide reputation, but if the rewards themselves, if pretty much all the rewards are account-wide, do we need account-wide reputation still? Because we would fall under we would end up getting into other segues and other conversations about, okay, well, can the account I'm like getting lost in this shit now, because we're talking about so many different things at the same time. If one character contributes to the reputation, do all characters contribute to the reputation? Yes, no, and why? And we would get into all sorts of things with that. But feel free to ask if you have a want or a concern, then we can talk about it. The one thing I will say for rep grind as a positive is that it does allow an at your own pace feel. If you want to grind and get done, great. If not, you can take your time. I have reps in the old world that I still haven't finished yet, and that's okay. Seems efficient to make reps account bound to some extent. Yeah, but part of the reason not to do it is, again, that it would be intrusive, because like let's pretend, what if they made reputation account bound? What happens to past reputations? How do we treat that? And how would players react to it? Some players have like a dozen alts and they've done Exalted multiple times, Exalted Timbermaw a bunch of times because reasons, whatever. How do you respect that? Do you acknowledge it at all? Or is it just like, okay, cool, you got Exalted once, it only counts once, here's what you get, and it's being tracked, and like that's it. Yeah. But again, like, is it necessary? Ugh. I don't know how efficient it would be to make reps account bound, because you'd have to put in the work to retrack all that stuff too. Can you say the letter N? N. It would just get into the conversation of, do players want WoW to turn into Final Fantasy, where you want to treat alts like one main being any class? I don't think it's going that far, because we're just talking about the scope of reputation. We're not getting into classes and gameplay and stuff like that. So I would stop it there, because we're not talking about that. We're only talking about, like, we're just talking about reputation. And again, if the rewards are account wide, then is that such a big deal? Because right now, what we're seeing, I talked about this before, I don't mind repeating it. Reputation milestones are account wide, or they can be account wide. That's in there now. We've seen it in Venari reputation. We've seen it in Korthia reputation. I'm sorry, we've seen it with Venari, and we've seen it with the shit. I forgot what it's called. Something Codex, Archivist Codex, whatever. We've seen it with those two reps, where once you hit a certain milestone, the accessibility of that item or thing or perk or whatever is shared. Other people can go in and buy conduit upgrade things. As soon as you hit rank 6 with one person, at least, shit, maybe I don't know if I'm remembering this right. If you hit rank 6 on one character, your other characters can buy the conduit upgrade thingamajigger. And that's cool. That's fine. So it's in there now. But it's limited to milestones. So once you get honored, all your characters are honored. Once you get to revered, all your characters are revered. But it's not consistent. There are things that do work and things that don't. A great example of account bound rep is the Alder Scryers thing in BC. Blood Sale would be all fucked up. Yeah, Blood Sale would be kind of fucked up, because there are some people that have a certain character that want their character to be friendly with Blood Sale, and the other ones they want them to be unfriendly with them for strictly RP reasons. Do we need to have some sort of toggle for that then? We get into scope creep. We get into much more. We get into all these sorts of what ifs that need its own answer. That might lead into its own what ifs that also need its own answer. Yeah. So I want to embrace the idea of account-wide credit, but as for account-wide reputation tracking, I don't feel like it's worth it when there are other things that we can do that sound easier. Something like that. Blizzard should go back to the Tillers and the Angler style rep boost for alts. Faction-based rep is tricky though. Yeah, that's why I talked about contracts, Johnny. Like people talked about tabards. I feel like tabards just are too dated to continue to work. And I think contracts are like a cool way to do it. What do you think about the rep currencies, like relics being bind on account, or would that be bad to be able to funnel all the currency to one tune if you wanted? What that does, in my opinion, boys, is that it encourages that whole having more alts makes you more advantageous. Where, cool, if I can do this quest multiple times just by logging on to multiple characters, then I get greater gains. And I feel like that is that's a weird way to go. It turns your characters into mules, and it makes it so that, like, depending on the reward, again, a lot of this depends on rewards too. That because that motivates people in certain ways. Sure, some people might be motivated to really get that mount. That's cool, but I think it's not that bad of a thing. But if there's like an epic thing or epic Sword of the Onage that you can get behind that, then people are going to use characters that really have no value to them apart from being able to get their main that thing. So I don't think that would be like really fair. Yeah, there's not just Blood Sail, but there's those two reps in Sholazar Basin. There's the one with the Murloc looking things. No, the little fish looking dudes, and then the puppies. There's those reps. There's some weird achievements behind that too. You missed the contracts conversation. I was watching Taliesin go on about an actual possible legit leak for next expansion. What's the name of it? I probably talk mad shit about it. Mad shit about it. Just like everything. Frenzy Heart are the puppies? Okay. Well, whichever. Do you think a system like Renown should have been account bound? Like once you hit 80, all your characters would hit 80. I think what we have is a decent compromise. Because a lot of the stuff you get there is already account wide. A lot of the rewards, you already get a big ass boost. Blizzard still wants you to put in some work. That's it. They still want you to put in some work. Um, 4 to 10 at best. We just need player housing, furniture, and decorations for days as a rep rewards. Yeah, I agree. I would work all the reps if we had something like that. Absolutely. Okay, now I'm curious. Like, which leak was Taliesin talking about? Because I've covered like, let's see, 5, 10, at least 30. I think I've covered at least 30 leaks. No, more than that. I've done 6 episodes of leak season. This one, yesterday's was 8, 7 or 8. The one before that was 14 or 15. And that was only 2 episodes. Yeah, so I must have covered like 30, 40 leaks. It was one that predicted cross-faction like 3 days before the end. Nah, to me that one was just a throwing it at the wall. Or, shit thrown at the wall and it stuck. Because I remember I've talked about, hey guys, what they could do? They can dip their toe into cross faction. I really want them to dissolve the faction divide, but if they limit it to instance content, not outdoor content but instance stuff, that'd be cool. Yeah, people have talked about that. There's nothing whoa about it. They just got lucky. It was based on a leak post preceding the Blizzard announcement of cross faction. Oh, okay, yeah, I think that was the one. Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, to me that was to me that was pretty shitty. But I guess it was also vague enough, and it left out enough information to be like, you know what, maybe. But nah, that was just one person that got it right, and yeah, that was it. Oh well. I remember looking too. I was like, did they edit the post or anything like that? Nope, doesn't look like it. Cool, because they got it right. But also, I think that leak didn't really reveal anything revolutionary either, apart from maybe Dragon Isles or something like that. And yeah, there wouldn't be anything like whoa about it, except for the fact that that person would be right. But they also didn't really know much. Speaking of cross-faction, when they open cross-faction guilds, they're going to make a fortune from me alone when I transfer my Horde tunes to my Alliance service. They can be, yeah, I really hope that if or when they do it, because they might not, but if or when they do it, that they provide like a big ass discount for faction and race changes, or I guess just faction changes. Actually, no, not even faction changes, just race changes, because faction changes won't exist because there's okay, fine, whatever. But I hope they do have like a 75% discount, something like that. 75%. It needs to be substantial, because I think that, you know, I'm no marketing person, I'm no business analyst, but I would say that if it's a shitty discount, then okay, whatever. But if it's a deep discount, you're gonna find that people will be like, dude, I'm gonna change like 10 of my characters. So Blizzard would make way more money than they would have if they didn't have such a big discount. People would be like, oh, you know, maybe I'll only do one or two or something like that. But if you do a bunch of them, or if you do a deep discount, you know, 75%, hey, it's gonna last for a couple weeks. This is it. People will throw down. They're gonna throw down. That's going to be such a big ass influx of cash. And I know I shouldn't really be like, hey, let's find out how to help Blizzard make more money. But that's just more like a prediction of mine. Hey, Alex, what's up, dude? I'd love to transfer like 10 or 15. Yeah, I'm sure. I wouldn't mind fucking around for a little bit either, and change my race to like something else too. To change my race to like a Draenei or something like that. And the one thing that I would wonder too, and this is like a technical hurdle that Blizzard needs to deal with, is if they do dissolve the faction divide, like later, you know, somewhere down the line, 10-0, 10-1, whatever. If they do that, how do I get an alliance garrison? How's that going to work? Because that's something that I would love to have. I just want to have Alliance Garrison, because I want to have a nice looking garrison this time. Unless they do player housing, then I'll be like, oh, sorry, Garrison. Fuck y'all, man. I'm going to do my own shit. Hell yeah. And you're back. Let's see. 130 tunes for $5 a server transfer for me would be $650, and I would do it. Yeah, see? Especially if we knew that it would be like a temporary sale. 75% off. Go. There'd be most people though, they would be spending, you know, like $10-15 for transfers and stuff. And that would be okay. You know, that's still 10 or $15 that goes into Blizzard's pocket. It could be $60, but I think that's going to turn off a lot of people too. So at least 50%, at least 50%. And that'll be cool. There's gonna be people that say, "No, man, it needs to be more. It needs to be fucking free." Blah blah blah. But they don't need to. I know if I was in Blizzard's shoes, I'd be like, "How do I milk these fuckers?" That's so fucked up. But well, I thought I was big time with my 12 characters. 12 is a lot too, man. Shit. Now, even if I personally had 130 characters, I would not transfer all of them, or I would not race change all of them. That, you know, variety, man. Alliance players are envious of horde garrisons, but the opposite is true as well. Really? Yeah, I have not heard of that. I have not heard of Alliance players wanting a horde garrison. Whoa. Now, then again, I haven't really had an Alliance garrison, so I can't compare at all. But at a glance, which is important, at a glance, you're damn right I'd rather have a Alliance garrison. You wanted a Hordish garrison? It's just not cool, man. Like, you go into the Great Hall, and it's just like a big empty thing with a couple tables and mats to sit on, and that's it, dude. Like the Garrison Town Hall for Alliance, that was cool, man. You walked in and there was like stuff. There were doodads all over the place, furniture. There's a long table, lots of role play you could have, I would imagine, if I was into that thing. In the Horde Garrison, everyone's standing in a circle. Everyone sit down. It's like fucking kindergarten, man. Sheesh. Not the garrison, but the location. Oh, I wasn't fond of the location either. You know, it gets cold out there. You're there, and it's just cold outside, and that it's kind of a bummer. Got all the races done except for what guards we wanted. I just want my Iron Forge home. These are some good notes for this video. I'm not quite sure how I'm still not quite sure how I want to do this, because we're talking about so many different things, and I want to try to organize it in such a way to get people's gears going. Hey, here's some possibilities, guys. Here are the tools that we can play with. But I can see a future that's better. I think that's what I want to sell people on, that there's something better than what we have presently. And here are some of the lessons that can be learned. We're seeing some reflection of it, but you know, still a way to go. Let's see if we could have a night elf garrison with sentinel guards. I'd choose that. Where would you say rep is in the dev team's priorities? That's a weird question to ask. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. The way I see it, reputation is one of the many tools that developers use to pace content. Because right now we're seeing a lot of different things happening in patch 9.2. We saw a lot of things in 9.1 as well. But 9.2 makes it even more different feeling. There are reputation quests or reputations for us to work on that don't really unlock anything new, but they're just there. The biggest thing would be like the revered memory thingamajigger. I'd say the things that open up the zone is the Cypher Research Console, farming up ciphers of the first ones. The other reputation, a currency. You farm that stuff, you plug it into the thing, and you research stuff. And you learn things. And as you learn things, and in the context, so I guess in the context of 9.2, it makes more sense for it to work like this, because reputation is just reputation, and then you get things from the vendors or whatnot. It would have been cooler if they also let you access more quest lines, which for all I know you can, because I have not worked the reputation in the PTR. I've only gone as far as friendly, so I actually don't know if there are more things that you can do as you unlock those reputations. But for the ciphers, I can say that as you progress through the Cypher Research Console, you start to, you collect ciphers, which help learn languages. You give it to a dude, he helps to research this language, and then as you unlock as you decipher more of this shit, then you're now able to talk to new NPCs, and you can get more questing out of it. So there is like this kind of expansion of stuff that you have access to with the ciphers of the first ones. That could have been translated into reputation. The team decided to do something fun, as usual, and create something new to kind of dress it up a little bit differently. And it has its good points and not so good points, but this is what we're getting, and so we get to try it out. Goblin and Gnomish player houses would be so much fun. Oh yeah, dude, imagine being a fucking Tauren and you're like going into the Gnomish player house and you're like, oh no, and that wouldn't work out. The lack of an expansion announcement is starting to get killer. With an announcement preview, it would have been easier to focus feedback and see where the team is trying to focus efforts. The hubris. Sorry. My predictions have so far been fairly on point. I don't anticipate, at this point, now that we have a 9.2 announcement, I think that window of announcing a new expansion has closed, for now, at least. Right now, put player attention on 9.2 story content. Big things could happen big enough to where an expansion announcement can wait. Give or take a few more weeks. I don't think that's the end of the world. If people are, there's a point where, hey, it's Blizzard's responsibility to announce a new expansion soon, but the other half of it is us. How patient can we be, knowing that no matter when they announcement, it's still going to be months from now. So what's a few more weeks to wait for that? Apart from maybe more episodes of Leak Season, none. So I guess as someone who does content creation and lives in the discourse 26 hours a day, I can live with it.